What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the We All Win podcast. I am your host, Isaiah Grigg. Very, very excited for today. We have none other than our own Assemblyman Noah Burroughs here with us. Very, very excited to have you here, sir. We're going to really tackle some real issues, but we're also going to really be as inspiring as we can. Here at the We All Win podcast, we're really trying to bridge the gap and demystify what it means to be successful, but all the processes and hurdles and things that you might have to go through along that process and that journey, is not always about just understanding the refined result. It's about everything that's happened along the way. And there's no one here better than to discuss that with than Assemblyman Noah Burroughs, because he has that story. And it's really a sight to see based upon you've done it all. You're right. Athlete, teacher, civic activist, community, activist, trustee, now assemblyman. Number one, thank you for being here. Number two, very, very excited to dive into your journey, learn and understand what it took and some of the great stories I'm sure you have, right? In terms of, kind of getting to this place. But number one, welcome aboard. Thank you for being here. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very appreciative of being here.
Absolutely, man.
I'm great. It's been a journey.
Yeah.
It's been, some individuals, we talk, and then it make me aware of what I'm doing and how monumental it is. And I never look at it that way. I just usually look at it as something that I feel passionate about, something that I'm doing that helps other people.
Yeah. And I think that's where it becomes real to us, right? Like, we do the work because that's just the work. And when you're a worker, like I know you are, it just comes natural. But then it becomes real when somebody comes to you and say, you want to know what the results of your work led to this. Yes. And it's like, oh, wow. Like, that's where it's like, it could be a real eye opener. But talk to me about, let's go way back, right? You're an athlete. I think you were in NFL 2000 to 2003 with the Jets,
correct.
Right?
Jets and Jaguars.
Jets and Jaguars, right? For our athletes out there, right? This is always something that I want to always discuss is talk to us about what it really means to be a high level athlete, because I think that speaks to what it means for discipline, dedication, even in how we go about our professional world. But talk to me about being a high level athlete.
Well, the first thing, I think you have to have the ability to see it in yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, you have to be honest with yourself and see if you have the ability to achieve the goal that you set forth. That's not to say that you don't believe in yourself, but you have to also be realistic.
Yeah.
The first thing I wanted to know was as athletic or more athletic than the next to be able to compete at the next level.
Yeah.
And so, the kids that were in my age group, I was. Yep. And every level, I would always gauge myself by how I was able to compare myself with others in terms of being athletic or more athletic. So, the process of that, but as well as taking care of your body.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. And it's probably going to be a charge that I'll take later on in my political career to start putting forth some initiatives to make sure that we eat healthier.
Yes.
Not only in the state, but as well as the country. Yeah. I think we need to change a lot the way we eat.
Yeah.
And so, I was just honest with myself. And as I compared myself, I saw at every level I was able to maintain or, either surpass others. So once I saw I was able to attack those goals, the one thing that I did, along with my body being very intentional on what I put into my body, also the proper sleep, and I just tuned out everything. There was nothing that I didn't do that wasn't related to sports.
Wow.
So for me, I like to put blinders on and attempt to achieve a goal, whatever that goal is. And so my goal was to be a Division I athlete. And then after that, it was, can I make it to the NFL? And, my junior year in college, prior to that, sophomore and freshman year, I had some newspaper articles.
Okay.
That was a gauge. It was a good gauge. My junior year, I had 31 teams that came and visited me. So I know it's possible.
Yeah. It gets real fast.
It does. And, once I was going through my senior year in college, my focus was to maintain and do better than I had done the year prior. And I was able to do that. So having these teams interested in me motivated me to continue to push harder.
Wow.
So, 2001, it's funny because I came home to Hempstead. If my collegiate career, or not only collegiate, but everything professionally, everything has always led me back to Hempstead. So I think it's only befitting that currently I serve Hempstead now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I think you said something that's really insightful. Well, actually said two things that's really insightful. Number one is that my whole focus was that, right? I didn't allow anything to distract me. There was almost what I like to call a delusional confidence, right? That goes into, this is the goal that I have, and there's nothing else as important as this goal right now, especially if I want to do it at a high level.
Correct.
Right. And the discipline that exudes. And then also there's levels. The second thing you kind of alluded to, that there's levels to it. Like you get to one level, you get it, and then it's like, okay, what's the next level than that? So I think that's so important if we're talking about how we just kind of move through our world in terms of our dreams and our goals, because there are seasons where we have to shut people down. Right. And I think one of the first things that even I like to leave, even with our students sometimes, is to say, if you have a real goal, not everybody will be available to go along the journey. And that's one of the hardest things to understand, especially in your youth. But if you listen to every major athlete, businessmen, tech giants, they all had a season where I have to shut everything else off and I have to accomplish this. Because if not, I don't get to where I am now if I don't have that season. Like, have you had to have that same conversation with even constituents up to this point about just that mentality?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, in the political world, or anything I do, I try to maintain focus on whatever goal it is that I have set.
Right.
So in this first session as assembly, what I did is I did tune out a lot. I had to tune out family members. But the thing with my family is they're completely understanding of me having to, go silent, go dark.
Absolutely.
Even for my own son, I had to miss a lot of his sporting activities. But in order to be an expert, I think you have to delve in 100% at whatever your craft is. And so in order for me to be the best legislator I can be, I have to learn. There's processes that I needed to learn. There's scheduling that I needed to learn. There's people that I needed to meet. And all those things, it really doesn't really allow for you to have a personal life in a sense. So
not even not allow, it just cuts it shut. It shuts it right off for a second.
Oh, it completely shuts it off. So the first, I would say 4.5 months, it was no communication with a lot of people. The good thing about people who understand the political world, they won't try and reach out because they understand it.
Exactly.
So, and there's another thing that makes it possible. The speaker, Carl Hasty, he's great. What he has done is that he made being in session enjoyable as much as he can possibly with your family.
Good.
So your children, they can come up. Your wife,
that's awesome.
Your husband, they can come up and they're allowed to be in the chamber. They can be in the lounge with you for a short period of time.
That's
but even dogs, you have
that's
pets.
Nice.
So
I think there's a psychology to that. I think if you want someone to operate at their maximum efficiency, you need to get rid of some of the things that might distract them.
Correct.
Right. So I think that's really wise on his part. Very, very wise. So NFL, you come back to Hempstead, like you said, everything points back to Hempstead. 20 years in teaching. Right. What did you teach?
ELA and history.
ELA. My daughter's two favorite subjects. Anything about math, they got to leave the room, but they love it. So what was that experience like? Obviously in education, and then, we know where education is going now and some of the hurdles that we have to climb. For all of our youth to really do right by them. But talk to me about your educational journey and what did it mean for you to be in the classroom?
So I guess for me, it was different because as a child, 14 years old, I knew I wanted to play in NFL.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also knew that I wanted to teach.
Oh, wow.
I know a lot of people at that age, they're not sure what they want to do as far as a career choice. I had a passion for both of those two things.
Okay.
And I think when you grow up, I grew up in a dualistic world where, it was great because, your parents you consider them to be middle class.
Okay.
You have a nice house, everything's great, right? But then there's a time in the period where those things are all gone.
Yeah.
And now you're living in what people consider low socioeconomic and poor communities.
Yeah.
So I've lived in both.
Okay.
So at the age of 14, I always wanted to strive to get back to what I considered to be middle class.
Okay.
So, what could help you do it better than, playing in NFL, or once you're done, being able to teach, help kids.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the path that I chose. And luckily for me, I love people. I love kids.
Yeah.
A lot of times I go into a room, and if there's a bunch of kids, I gravitate toward the kids, and we'll have conversations, and we just talk about things that they enjoy, and for me, that's my pleasure because I get a chance to give back to them in some way.
I think that's what makes it. If I'm being honest, I think that's one of the tools that create a great politician is the fact that doesn't matter what level you're on, you can find a way to communicate and reach them.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing more than our youth need us to be reaching them more now than ever. Right. Where we're seeing, there's obviously we talk about this all the time, post-pandemic this and post-pandemic that, but it's real that we saw a real dip in the social emotional stability of our youth.
Yeah.
Right. We saw a dip in their grades and their readiness to enter, whether or not it be college or the workforce. And we need leaders, right, to step up, give more of themselves, understanding not much is coming back, right, to ensure that not only they have the mindset, but they have some tools in the chest as well. What's in terms of the ideology behind even being a trustee in the village and based upon your teaching experience, time in the NFL, and just living in the neighborhood, experiencing both sides of the social economic coin, what have you been able to utilize in terms of those learning experiences to speak to this now generation?
I think staying connected is something that was clear that I wanted to do always. When you're in high school, you're an athlete, people tend to say you're going to leave. You're never going to come back. And people equate that success has to mean that you leave and you never come back. I've never felt that. I've always wanted to achieve some sort of success and bring that success, that knowledge of what I got and bring it back to people that I know who could use it. Right. So for me, that's just giving it back to kids.
Yeah.
And then, that broader horizon can continue to grow. And then others in the community could use that same application of what I've used to, see some sort of success and then they apply it themselves.
What are some of the frustrations with that said that you've experienced in doing so? Obviously it's not always easy. There's always, there's going to be some sort of pushback, and sometimes it's pushback from the very folks you're trying to help sometimes. Right. How do you kind of still bridge that gap and make sure that the sentiment of why you're trying to help remains consistent? Because sometimes that gets lost in the sauce. So you're just here to help because you need this, or you just here to help because you're running, or you're just here to help to do X, Y, Z. But to give a very authentic tone to your desire to help.
Well, one thing that we missed probably in my my history is that not only did I play, I also coach at every level. So I've coached Pop Warner, I've coached junior high school, college, and even in the NFL.
Okay.
So one thing I do know is that when I left all that, I realized that you're never going to fully be able to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
And so you have to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I know that. So, they may have some sort of, unhopeful response to whatever it is that you're trying to do. But you have to stay even keel and let them know that the purpose and I'm doing this is for the greater sum of the good of the people in the area.
Yeah.
So as long as I know I'm focused on trying to help a majority of the people, I'm comfortable in what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely a reaction that happens where it can go one way or the other sometimes in these interactions where we can supposedly get it, right? I understand the big picture thinking. And then someone who's just so in their stuff, right? They're so in their environment, their community, just their circumstances where they just can't see anything else. And I can't call it, and I've had this discussion with folks, like, well, that's selfish. That's not selfish. It's just, I see it as that individual being so into their circumstances. Sometimes things happen where you literally can't see anything else.
Yeah.
Right. And your responses are indicative of the fact that you really feel like this is the only box that you have. And that's just it for you. And it takes someone to go in there and kind of come get you. Right. But sometimes you can't do that. That's why you have constituents. That's why you have staffers. That's why you have staff to kind of help marry yourself to all types of circumstances. So talk to me now. Well, let's dive into your race, right? Because I'm sure you've had to have this conversation during that time and you've had folks combat some of the initiatives that you wanted to do. Talk to me about your decision, number one, from trustee to wanting to go into the assemblyman office, and even your time as a trustee, some of the great work. So give us a timeline and the scope of your progression between trustee all the way up to running and winning the election.
Well, becoming trustee, at first I had to earn the trust of the mayor because I initially ran against him. So the mayor...
That's not awkward.
Yeah. Well, you know what it was? It was just something that I had done. One of the few times in my adult life where I could say I regretted my decision.
Okay.
And I let him know that.
Okay.
But also I worked with him afterwards.
Okay.
So, he got to see my true heart.
Yeah.
So I have a former teammate who, he has a golf outing every year.
Okay.
And what he does with that outing is, Victor Green, he gives back to schools and kids.
Okay.
So I invited the mayor, and he came, he attended it. He had a great time. And then there were some other things that I'd done and also the village had done where I would get involved.
Okay.
So, once the trust grew, the relationship grew.
Okay.
And from there, he would trust me to specifically, once I was elected, he trusted me enough to take on certain duties and responsibilities.
Shout out to Mayor Hobbs. Shout out to Mayor Hobbs.
Yeah, Mayor Hobbs. It's my bigger brother. So, he trusted me, and then I come with ideas. And I think that's what this village had been missing. Is there was people who were in office but didn't have vision. And I think along with the deputy mayor, he's so much that he does for this village. Oh, people don't know. There's so much that he does for this village as far as what we want to do and, drive up the economy and just drive up the visibility, the aesthetically pleasing view that we want to implement in our downtown area. Oh, he does so much. And we all have a shared vision of doing better and seeing better within the community. So once he saw that, it was easy. I just had to continue to learn. Learn processes. And
vision is important. I think, and obviously Mayor Hobbs was here several weeks ago as well, and vision was something that he also spoke about. And I think in totality, leaders who have vision operate in a realm of purpose, right? That exacerbates their leadership to higher heights. I think we see leaders that they're great leaders or managers, right? But I can't call them visionaries because they're static, right? It's just one task to the next, and the hamster wheel continues. But I consider visionaries those who can think generations ahead to say, hey, I might not really see this happen in my lifetime, but we're laying a framework, right? Or even my time in office, but we're laying a framework for the next person, next generation to come and take this work to the next level and create different avenues, open certain doors that can't be closed, right? and create infrastructure that can be built upon. So, talking about, I guess, about, the goals of your office, well, before we get there, I still want to understand the experience of running. I've always been very interested in that, in terms of, what does it take, to really run an efficient, effective, and successful campaign?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is, one, you have to fully invest and commit within yourself, knowing that you won't have a lot of time to do much of anything. So when I committed to run that year with the support of the mayor, one, you got to have a team that's effective. So, you can find your campaign manager who's effective. You have organizations that are in the community that are also effective and they have reach. So for me, it was putting those blinders on after I found that that staff to work with me. And just tuning everything out and making sure I focus on it and having my own ideas along with my campaign manager. She's a great strategist.
Nice.
And once I gave my ideas along with their ideas, it made it a race that was like easily winnable. Another thing is my experience in the community and my experience as a teacher. You kind of look at certain people in certain careers. They did things, I guess, with the intention of running. I never had intentions of being a politician at all. I guess things in your life happen for a reason. So as a kid, my dad, he always told me about the stories of him integrating Savannah, Georgia at the age of 13. Once they integrated Savannah, Georgia, he and what do you call his surrogate dad, Hosier Williams. He moved with my dad to Atlanta, Georgia. And so my dad's early teen years, he was a staffer. He's a very tall individual. So at 15, he did command respect from a lot of the younger adults as well as the teenagers. And so they put him in charge of a group of kids and adults. And those stories that he told me, specific conversations he had with Martin Luther King. And I remember being in the 5th grade, I would always brag to my teachers and the students, and they always thought it was a great thing. So my dad would come up for career day. He would speak to the kids and tell them about some of the specific stories that he had. Great stories.
That's awesome.
And I guess that implanted itself in the back of my mind, which is why I did community service with my nonprofit organization. And then when I reached a certain age, I started to see things in the community that I didn't like. So I said, this person is running for this office. This first person, I said, I can't allow someone who I think does not have the best interest run for something that I know I could do, and I'm going to do it for the right reasons. And so for that is why I initially put my hat in, but also just having the fortitude to be able to fight. I fought school board at one point in time. I fought the superintendent at another time. And, you fight on the football field. So I just took all that and I transitioned it, packaged it, and I used it towards running the campaign. I ran a campaign initially, I thought, against a person who if they had won the seat, the village would have been nowhere near where it is here today. And then the same thing when the things that I've done, and some of the other people in my party, they heard my message and they said that the seat that's going to become available, I didn't choose to run for state assembly. That idea was implanted based on the work that I provided or I'd done in the village prior. And so they said, I think he'd be a great person. So, we go through a vetting process and they see if, they weren't sure still. But when I ran, I explained to them, I'm never going to run for a seat. One, if I'm not completely vested into it. And two, if I think someone else can serve it just as well or not better. And I didn't think anybody could who was running for the seat. Which is why I ran. And having a great support team that I did is why I won. So
listen, I number one, I definitely appreciate the story about your dad. That's really cool. And I think that's something that young men need more of,
Yeah.
to be able to channel back into those stories and kind of those things that really incite that level of desire to change and be a change agent. I think it's pretty cool as well. And I have to say this, there's definitely a quiet confidence that you exude that I believe is more felt than heard.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's better, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I'm sure you've heard this saying, the loudest person in the room is usually the one that have no power at all.
Yep.
Right. And there is, especially in today's world where everything is so loud, right? I think we need the calmness that comes with someone with that quiet confidence, right? And not have to be one that, to your point, I'm not doing this for any other reason. And I believe that, number one, it fits me. I find value in it, and I know I'll give it my all. And then number two, I'm willing to say no thank you if there's somebody better than me. So the humility factor in that, I think, is to be commended, because for myself, or even those that voted, I think it cuts through the noise to say this individual really wants what's best for the area, and it's not about their own gain. Because if it was, those statements don't come from that, right? So was there any persons that you met along that campaign journey that stood out to you, that really affected change and really said, man, this is something I really wanted because of that particular person or circumstance that I came in contact with? Was there a scenario that really, out of all the people that you've probably met, had to have conversations with, or just ran into along your journey, what was something that stood out to you?
Well, I tell you, one individual, I can't say in the specific individual, but I can tell you that I've taken a new challenge on figuring out how to effectively work with our small businesses. Our small businesses make up everything.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a thing.
Yes. So there's a lot of people that I see that are very passionate about what it is that they do.
Yeah.
I think some of it comes with education. I think some of the business plans weren't completely foolproof.
Yeah.
And when they got involved in these businesses, it kind of created friction, or they didn't maximize their profits.
Yeah.
So I've tried to work with as many people as I could to try and bring them up to date on what a proper business plan is.
Yeah, for sure.
And trying to find funding for them as well.
Good.
So
nice.
Finding people that are very passionate about that, and already when I came into it for children for the most part. I wanted to make sure children, our veterans, and our seniors were provided for. So for me, that was a push more than it was someone along the campaign trail. But meeting people along the campaign trail and fostering new relationships was something that was great to me.
Nice. Yeah. All right. So is there a particular initiative now that you want to really harp on in terms of, this is a sentiment of my office that is a absolute priority to us right now? Not only for the village, but in totality, in terms of ensuring that we get to the next level, the synergy between, Mayor Hobbs, as well as the village, as well as, state. What is some of those initiatives that we can talk about in terms of where the village is headed now?
Well, the success of the village usually, or any area within a county, it usually starts at the county level.
Absolutely.
There's a lot that needs to be done. So I've kind of been charged with finding individuals to help us move our initiative, and there's a lot that's done wrong.
Yeah.
I try to work on things on a state level, since that is my that's my niche. That's where I legislate. I don't want to specifically deal with legislation on a specific area, but I will if it calls for it. So here within the village, not only in the village, but also within my district, Roosevelt, Uniondale, Freeport, Baldwin, even West Hempstead, have been affected by what I call unfair poaching of charter schools, which they come into the village because per pupil capita, the funding for that individual to educate that child is higher here than it is anywhere else. But what happens is that doesn't stop a resident from Roosevelt or Uniondale or Baldwin. That parent can still send their school to the charter school even if it's here.
Right.
So, I don't oppose charter schools. I just oppose the way they're funded and how it creates a conflicting competition between educational schools.
Yeah.
That's where myself and the mayor, we would differ a little. I don't think the schools itself should compete and to effectively make another school weaker.
Yeah.
And that's what charter schools do.
Do you think that's primarily because of, again, the funding piece, or is it a curriculum thing?
Specifically, okay. It's more than the funding. It's the funding, but it's also they can pick the best students.
Right.
If you were to give me the best athletes, I would have the best team. I would be considered a great coach, but you won't know if I am because I have the best athletes.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. Essentially, they take the best students. They don't take the students with disabilities. They don't have to follow a as rigorous progress as other teachers do.
Okay.
There's an outline where you have to have a certain certification. You have to have all these educational components, and charter schools can just grab someone who doesn't have that same rigor. They may have the passion, but they don't have that same schooling and education. So it creates an unfair bias, an unfair judgment when you compare charter schools.
How would you, or how are you in real time seeing that the playing field get leveled? I guess obviously charter schools are here to stay, but I think to your point, there can definitely be some enhancements to where there's so a parent is not having to decide unfairly what school, but then also, like you said, there's not some sort of disadvantage created by the charter schools being there, because we don't want two positives create a negative, right? So how in your mind does that actually work? If you were to nirvana space and you can have it as you will, but what would it be?
So this year, what we did, there was $24 million that was lost from one school district because of the charter schools. And if that $24 million wasn't made up, a lot of teachers as well as buildings would have had to, the buildings would have closed and the teachers would have had to been fired. So we had to find in the budget that extra money that they lost.
Yeah.
With finding that money, it's just a Band-Aid. So the same thing's going to happen next year.
Right.
So what I propose is that we create the charter schools that are here currently. That's fine. They could stay. But we wanted a moratorium so that no new charter schools could enter.
Gotcha.
So that's the solution.
Okay.
It was some pushback on that. But I'm going to continue to fight that. There's other laws that were put in place to prevent this from happening. Okay. So what I'm going to do is reintroduce that to the state, see if, if I have to push it all the way up. Every law goes through the governor's desk to see if she approves it or not. And charter schools is one that a lot of legislators are afraid to take. I'm not, just because I'm for children.
Yeah.
I'm not for these other issues or reasons or entities that people do things in the political world. So if we could implement a different portion of funding that it doesn't pull from one area and to give to another, then I'm for it.
So do you think, for those who might argue that, okay, charter schools does present a problem to public schools, but for those looking at the quality of education and might have the argument to say, well, public school quality as opposed to a charter school quality is varied as well, what would you say to that parent to say, well, I understand that, there might be some issues there, but I don't want to lose the quality of said education too, just to check one box, but then we're not checking the others as well. So,
well, the perfect legislator to ask is as a former educator. So before this became an issue, I always told parents that your student success is not based on the building that they're in. The student success is based on the individual student and you as a parent, along with the educators,
Right.
helping foster whatever their initiatives are. You can take a kid that is a terrible student and you put them in a different school, it won't automatically increase that child's grade.
Correct.
It's only based on the effort that he or she puts into it. And so charter school takes the best students. That means they have parents that are also involved. They won't take the students that are struggling or the parents that are involved. So there's an entrance application you submit, and they can see all that based on that application. And not only that, if they made a mistake, they usually send the student back. They send the student back, but they don't send the money back. That's what makes it even worse. So there's a lot now, and even in my district, even Hempstead, the graduation rate has increased 87%. So, there's quality education at both places. So I would just simply say, if you send your children there, you send them there for the right reason, not based on what you heard in the past. Because
that I do agree. I never applaud anyone who makes their decision based upon popular opinion, right? Or especially off TikTok and what they see on social media news and Facebook news. Really do the research to understand, number one, your options. Right? Because not every environment, and I wholeheartedly agree, not every environment is for every student, but that doesn't mean that the grass is always greener for that student either. And I think there's definitely a charge to parents to incite the value of education on their children, right? And that can't get lost in the conversation of comparison. Which one is going to do what. I think in education we're definitely at a kind of this quantum leap thing right now, where we can either make a huge step in the right direction or a huge step in the wrong direction. Right. Right. So it's that leap has to be built, in my opinion, on data, on the knowledge of what parents and students are actually asking for, right, in terms of their needs, and the state of the world, what's really happening, the trades, CTE programs, the high paying jobs, the availability and the awareness of certain jobs that we might not even known existed, right? Those are the things I'm concerned with, so even as an educator or in the educational space, it's about, when I was in high school, I had no idea some of these professions existed.
Same here.
Right? I had no idea that I could go into these professions without a 2 or 4 year degree, right? That certifications were like, these are the conversations that we're not having. And I think more now, when you're talking about wealth management, credit, that we need to start integrating into our schools more, because it more than anything, we're getting duped. There's predatory lending. Right. You have all of the YouTubers saying we can fix your credit for $525. We'll bring you up 125 points in 2 months. Things that are just not realistic, but because they find that person that is desperate. Right. And they feed on them. And that's, in my mind, where, from an educational standpoint, I want to see a lot of how do we defend those who cannot defend themselves? How do we educate those who might not have access to the education to understand what's there? And that's how I see it. And there's a long lasting, and I'll digress on this. There's a long lasting thing. One of my mentors used to tell me all the time, and I sit with it. And he used to tell me all the time, there's nothing new under the sun. Right. What we're dealing with now, there was a version of this that happened in the 80s. There was a version of this that happened in the 70s, a version that happened, so on and so forth. It's just how we're going to deal with it with the tools that we have now. Right. And that is what's most essential. So there's one thing I've actually always wanted to ask, and kind of sidebar to this a little bit, is what are those actual sessions like? Right. So what is, because like, do they just lock y'all in a room for 2 months and like, hey, we got work to do, ain't nobody going home, right? Like, I'm joking, but what is those sessions actually like?
Well, it depends on what time of the session it is. At the
Yeah.
beginning of the sessions, it's you continue with the bills you try and pass
Yeah.
that you think is important.
Okay.
So it's a little lax.
Okay.
It's a lot of conferences within the majority.
Okay.
So it's only the legislators, and we're in there for an hour or 2 hours, 4 hours sometimes. It depends. We discuss what we want to see throughout the year. We discuss the new budget. We discuss what may be a budget ask as opposed to trying to just pass something as a law.
Yeah.
Sometimes the governor puts things in the budget that we don't think is a budget item. But in order to agree on the budget, we have to discuss. So it's not fun, especially towards the end of the session.
Yeah.
That's when it does happen where you're not going home until we agree on that. That's when that happens. And most of the time it's you're conferring with your colleagues, or you as a legislator, you need to be sure what you're voting yes or no on.
Right.
There's a lot of bills that I want to steer clear from.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure you read the agenda for the day and see what bills are on there.
Gotcha.
Anything for a tax increase, I usually vote no. I'm not a fan
Hard
of
pass on that one.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of increasing in taxes, so I stay away from it. And it'll be some small tax. It'll be a hotel, what do they call it, like a luxury tax that they want to increase on customers. And you make enough profit to add these extra taxes. I'm not a fan of it. So, but it's okay. It's if you're getting your bills passed. So for me, I have some really important ones that I think it'll help the state.
Okay.
It'll help the people.
Yeah.
There's some tax exemptions that I want to become law throughout the state for seniors, veterans,
Nice.
Disabled, and some incarcerated individuals that I really want to help. And that is allowing them more programming.
Yeah.
Programming makes them a better inmate or incarcerated individual, and once they reacclimate to society, they have a new skill that they have honed.
Right.
There hasn't been a lot of programming since COVID, so I want to reactivate those things. And,
that's a great idea.
But session, it could be great. It could be tough. This was a tough one. We had vacation that we never took because we had to work through our vacation.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, listen, that's the behind the scenes stuff that not a lot of people will really know about. And even be able to contextualize, when it comes
it's
to
slow at times. Yeah. It's, the minority, they'll filibuster with long speeches and, they do things just to make it more difficult for you. So it's not always fun. And then sometimes I think even the majority, we have a little bit of too much of introductions. Or sometimes we'll have, so what an introduction is, you may come up, I introduce you on the floor and you get a chance to be on camera, and I just talk a little bit about what you do and your goals and accomplishments.
It's my time to shine, everybody. It's my time to shine.
But if we have 7 of those a day, we just extended our day by 2 hours.
And that's a lifetime in terms of what you have to do.
Yes. And then resolutions, there's sometimes resolutions people put forth where they're, to me, not important.
Yeah.
Like Hug a Cow Day. I think people have gotten used to the old political way of doing things, and I will never if it doesn't make sense to me. So for me, I'm all about, being intentional with time. I don't want to waste time on things.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. You want to see me with an attitude quick is have me somewhere I don't want to be, and my time is being wasted.
Yep.
You don't even want me in the room. Please get this guy out of here.
They do it at the federal levels, trust me.
For that I am certain.
They are best at it.
It's like it's that hurry up and wait mentality, and it's like it's gut wrenching. So if we're talking about the kind of the preface of the conversation, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot, not only about you, but also just about the mentality that goes into leading at this level. And when it comes to someone else that's trying to get where you are, right? That youth, that you've coached or that you've come in contact with that has aspirations to be that high level leader or to be at that great job or to be just like you, not having understood or even known your journey and your process, fails, passes. What do you say to that individual that has the ambition, may not have the circumstances or the correct environment, or to our point, the correct school, right? But really wants to be in that position, but just can't see how to get there, and they think it's just not for them. What do you say to them?
Well, I think with anything, first you need is knowledge. You have to have background knowledge. Whatever it is you decide to do, you should understand the framework that was laid, which makes it possible to do whatever it is you do. If it's a political world, I think you should know who your local elected officials are.
Absolutely.
I think you should know what they stand for. And then, it's kind of hard to say. I think I'm lucky to have people that I can look at as a team.
Yeah.
Like Mayor Hobbs, like some of my other colleagues, Deputy Mayor Daniels as well.
Yeah.
Mikael Salah, she's been great. Chuck Levine, he's been excellent. And then when you look at it, and there's newcomers like myself, Kwani O'Farrell, and then there's a great individual I have, Lorinda Hooks. She's out in Queens.
Okay.
But we created a team.
Yeah.
And so it makes us stronger, and you have an understanding of what's needed of you.
Yeah.
And you can fall on each other for help. But I think the most important thing is always to understand the process of how to get to where you want to be, but also to understand politics. There's so much. Luckily for me, I taught it. So I taught history and civics.
Yeah.
And I knew it already.
Yeah.
But there's some people that come into politics and they don't know the basics.
Yeah.
So as a person who wants to challenge someone for a seat, if there's some of the specifics or the basics that you don't know, it'll easily be shown. So I would always suggest that you do your homework before, because it allows people to appreciate that at least what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah. And that's sports. That's
everything.
Politics. That's
everything.
That's being a business owner. That's being anything.
Listen, I'm a firm proponent, like, always strive to be the smartest person in the room. Doesn't mean you'll always be successful.
Yeah.
But at minimum, it means you did the homework to prep yourself.
Yeah.
To be able to have a very relevant conversation about said topic, right? And I think it's a great segue when you said ask for help. We don't like to ask for help, especially as men sometimes, right? We're stubborn, we're pig-headed sometimes. We want to figure it out on our own. And sometimes the wisest thing you can do is to just ask.
Yeah.
And it takes nothing from you. It actually creates an aura around you that invites people to feed you information, right? Because you find value in what I have to offer, and I think that's a sentiment of a good leader and a sentiment of those who want to lead. How do you feel there? How can I preface this? Right there's I'll give you an example. We have come in contact with a litany of clients, we call them, right? Not just students, but clients, because they may not be students. They might just be individuals looking to upskill to things of that nature. So clients that come in and they're trying to find their place in the society and the community that they reside in. And to your point earlier, they want to bring that skill set back to the communities, right? But they might have experienced certain traumas, certain depressions. They might have had abandonment, single parent homes, foster care, things of that nature. And they're brilliant. And you can see sparks flying, when they're putting in an environment to utilize that skill. but it's always a confidence thing, right? It's a confidence thing. It's a worth thing. Am I worth it to be here? Is this for me? You know, politics aside, how do you speak to the little boy or girl that is trying to decide or figure out for themselves who they are? You know, I know when we started the conversation, you talked about locking in and understanding the goal and honing in on that. For that person or individual that have a hard time doing that, what do you say to them?
Well, I think I kind of have the philosophy of Malcolm X when it comes to guiding. You know, someone may ask you, "What do you think they should do?" And I can't tell you that. I can never tell you that. I can only put you in certain arenas. I don't know if you would appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you have to find out what you're passionate about. And once you figure that thing out, I can now be the conduit to help guide you into getting better at that craft. So there's no one thing that I'm an expert on.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in everything, but there are some things where I do consider myself an expert. And if I am, I'll help them in that area. If I'm not, I'll guide them to where they can get that expertise. And, you know, I say the same thing. There's some legislation that I'm working on, fixing some issues with law enforcement.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually helping law enforcement. There's been times where I've done some things to try to limit law enforcement because I think they overreach in some areas. But I'm all for doing things that's right. So I try to do the right thing in even guiding, you know, no matter who it is. I don't want to tell someone where I think they should go because they may not truly have that passion.
Right. You mentioned law enforcement. Now I got to ask you what you meant by that from prior law enforcement. So now I'm like, okay, so what are some of the initiatives you're talking about with regards to law enforcement?
Well, let's talk about first the one issue that we had during the budget season with law enforcement. So discovery. Discovery was a huge issue. It was a budgetary issue. One of the reasons why we couldn't agree earlier in our budget. I think what it does is, you know, the person who's charged of a crime, it says you're charged of a crime, now prove you're innocent. Correct. As opposed to the other. So we wanted to fix some issues with discovery. I fought against tooth and nail what the prosecutors, the district attorneys wanted. Right. You know, we made some gives. They made some gives. Right now, I'm not happy with this still. Okay. I think we need time to pass. See, one of the issues with discovery, there wasn't an issue with it in Long Island. Okay. It was only in some of the Bronx. Okay. And so they changed the state law for something that was only
isolated
an issue in a specific area. And, you know, I had an issue with that. But then there are other things where I think, you know, people are allowed to do too much. So I'm never against one thing. If it's right, it's right. And that's just my belief, my philosophy. And anytime I see something that's wrong, I'm going to always be opposed to it. So because of bail reform, our police are inundated with the same individuals. Right. So now that takes them off the street, being able to provide safety for someone else who really may need it. Right. These individuals may, and this is through research.
Yeah, okay.
I don't speak on things that I don't know. I confer with the experts, the law enforcement. We go out. Absolutely. And I've seen an individual that was arrested 8 times in 1 week, and they will continuously do things because they know they're going to be prosecuted and let go the same day. Now, I think that's the issue.
That is an issue.
So
I absolutely agree with you there.
What I want to do is make that a case by case situation. I don't think everyone that's arrested should be immediately released. Because you know, I could ask you, how would you feel if your sister was robbed by this individual? Because it was nonviolent, they're coming home in 4 hours. Yeah. Now they're going to rob someone else, and they're arrested again. Now they're going to rob, or maybe something even worse. Right. So these are the things you have to think about. For me, I try and make things white and black. I don't think there is any gray. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And that's always going to be my principle. Cool. And so that's a positive law enforcement and there's a negative in it. And I just want to try to stay on the side of right.
I think there's pros and cons, positives and negatives to everything. And definitely that's a different podcast for another day. We don't have time to unpack that now, but there's definitely some nuances in the law enforcement realm that need looking at.
Yeah.
Right. And that's from a healthy perspective. And that's having been involved in law enforcement for, 18 plus years. Right. There's and I will always, bleed blue, as they say, right? Because I've been in environments and circumstances where it was a real life or death situation, and I know what that feels like, right? From the inside out. But I also know from a policy protocol and sometimes just from a humanity standpoint, there's some things we need to address. Right. There's some things we need to address.
That's the word. It's currently, I have to say that word 3 to 4 different times a day based on what's going on in this country today. So.
Yeah. That's so. And that's where I'll leave it for this conversation. We usually end we usually like to end this particular conversation with a phrase, and I say the phrase, you end it, and the phrase is simply, we all win, win. Right. So if someone was to say, hey, Assemblyman Burroughs, we all win, win.
We work collectively as a team. I don't think there's anything better than having a team. A lot of times you get an individual they're put on that platform, but it's a team effort.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, listen, I definitely appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you.
Doing amazing work. Very, very excited about what the future holds for your district. And those of you who are watching, thank you so much. What was great about this conversation is that not only was it filled with a lot of nuggets, but it was practical, and it really hit on a lot of the nuances that some of us might be fearful of. Like if you have aspirations for government, have aspirations for politics, any high-level leadership, I promise you it's not as hard as you think, but it does require you to lock in, to have a very definitive mindset on what you want and how you want it, and be willing to go out there and get it. So please check back with us. Again, my name is Isaiah Grigg. This is the We All Win podcast. This is our guest, Assemblyman Noah Burroughs. We thank you again, sir, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.